Welcome to Critical Moves. This is your host for today, Timothy, joined by Adam.
Hello, everyone.
And today we're going to be talking about strategy in board games. All right, that's a new medium for us. Adam, you play some board games from time to time?
Yeah, I'm playing this from time to time. Your guys not seeing it, but behind me there's a full shelf of board games. For my co-host, it's not a secret, but for you, I'm a huge fan. Huge fan.
It's not just physical board games. There's also tons of board games that you and I have played, I think, online. I've certainly played it in form of Tabletop Simulator or other versions like digitalizations of existing board games. So also board games that we can play on the computer.
I'm playing video games. And it's like this MTV show that you are in a car while driving a car, so you are playing a game or playing a game or playing a video game. And that's what I love about it even more. I think that strategy gaming and board gaming are really close by because most of the board games, even in video game form, are all about strategy. So I guess these two topics are so related that this genre is becoming kind of big at this point.
So I think it depends a lot on the board game. I mean, board game is a very broad term, but I would say the kind of board games that I enjoy certainly are strategic. What first comes to when you think about a strategy board game?
I would say for me, the biggest one, the biggest in size, the biggest in time played, the best one is Eclipse Second Dawn.
Oh, nice. Perfect. Exactly.
So maybe for people who never played board games or video board games, this is the most refined concept of 4X space game in terms of board gaming, and it's focused on space battles mostly, but the games had been released a couple of times, and I guess we have like third edition at this point or second edition, I don't know.
Second edition.
Yeah, but a second edition, but I think there was like the first edition released 2 times or something. Like there's some shenanigans, but anyway, the thing is, this is in my opinion the best board game ever. Like there wasn't a single one better.
I agree. I'm so happy that you said that because I fully agree. And so, to give you just a very brief overview of Eclipse, it's like you said, it's a 4X space game, and you control an empire, and you have all the different kinds of alien species that you can have that have their very unique asymmetric factions. Very asymmetric. We talk a lot here on the podcast about asymmetry, and this definitely has it, which is really interesting. And yeah, you expand your territory, you research, you have a very cool research mechanic. You design your spaceships, and you have combat in a very unique way. And I think something that makes it being a board game a huge addition, other than the classical answers of being in person and seeing each other and moving physical pieces and stuff, which is like classical answers, but something about this is a complex game, a big game, and it being a board game means that everything has to be very streamlined, and the mechanics have to be very deliberately designed. And Eclipse does this very, very well. And I think with computer games, it's easy to get a little bit lazy in the mechanic design because you just put a button and then you push a button and that works. But
Yeah.
when it comes to board games, because you don't have all this automation running in the background, you have to make a very elegant system, and Eclipse is like the epitome of that.
There's this big discussion going in the board game gaming that people ask the creators of the game to, oh, the rules are so complex, let's make a video game out of it. And this is not the point, to be honest, because if you are playing a board game, you need to be able to first of all grasp it in a like 1 hour in order to play it. Second of all, it needs to be fun after this 1 hour. And video games, for example, like Europa Universalis, for me, it's like 10 hours of learning it, at least to have a little bit of fun. This is the difference.
Yeah.
And when it comes to Eclipse, when you play this game, because this type of games are quite common. There are, for example, there is Twilight Imperium. There are many games of this genre, and I would say that Eclipse Second Dawn is the pinnacle of development. Like this is the I think there cannot be third edition at this point because it's so refined.
It is. It is. I mean, to be fair, there's a couple other games as well that I really enjoy for different reasons that are also really good. But I think Eclipse is just the best one out there. I think the combat system, the ship design system, it's so well done. And anyone who is strategy and would like to sit at a table with some friends and likes a complex game, Eclipse Second Edition. Second, I actually prefer the first edition because it has more races and there's expansion packs that make it broader. But second edition is even more streamlined and has like better components. A couple of other games out there that are similar to Eclipse in some ways. Like I think an obvious one is Twilight Imperium.
In my opinion, it's a little bit too much when it comes to, because again, it gives you much more options. The diplomacy is much more important. But like again, this is this type of game, board game that you spend not like 2 hours playing a session, but I would say 8 hours to finish it. And it's a cool experience, but when it comes to board games, you need to be able to squeeze the gameplay as much as you can. And unfortunately, you can feel that Twilight Imperium was of the first board games in this genre, and it's simply like the we moved on from those times.
Yeah.
And
I would still play it. Like if someone was like, "Oh, I'm hosting a evening of Twilight Imperium. I'm having some friends over. Do you want to join?" I would still happily join. Like it's still a really fun game. Very, very strategic, very broad, very symmetric as well.
man, not an evening. I guess it's a
Yeah,
night,
yeah,
morning,
yeah.
and maybe a dinner after that. It's really long.
There's also a couple of games that either were board games and or tabletop games and were made into video games, or the other way around. I'm thinking one, for example, Warhammer used to be a tabletop game, and now you find how many Warhammer video games?
Billion at this point, I would say.
I did play, however, a couple games that were strategy games and were made into board games, and I thought they were really, really interesting. One example was an older one, StarCraft, a board game. That was really fun.
I heard about it. In a board gaming community, it's kind of a legend at this point because the game published one time and it was really good, and they simply lost right to publish it anymore. But the game is really, I heard it's really good. I've never encountered it even.
So it's really funny. I bought it at a special event. It was a gaming convention like ages ago, in the 2000s. And I bought it, but I didn't have any friends to play it with. So I just have this game for like many, many years, never played it. And then I still have it. I own it. I played a couple of times, but I guess I didn't have the right friends to play it a lot with. And yeah, I think it's a really well designed game, very fun. But I guess since you can't buy it, at least certainly not cheaply, I'm not going to go too in depth in it. Another one, though, very fun, very surprising, I think. Europa Universalis. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, I heard. I almost had the chance to play it. I heard about it, and I heard it's like a really good representation what Europa Universalis is all about. But I've
Yes.
never played it, so you can tell more about it, about the rules or
It's
something like that.
so we were talking about how long a game takes. So this game has eight ages or
Yep,
eight turns or something like that. So it's huge in length. I played a whole weekend, so all of Saturday and
my
all
God.
of Sunday. Not just a couple of hours, but the entire of those days. And I played half of one game.
You see, this must be fun.
It was actually incredibly fun. It does a really good job of getting the core of the video game into the board game. It's very diverse. It's well made. It's tons of fun. It does have some RNG elements, but so does the video game as well. So that's not too special. It has this really grand strategy feeling. You start playing and you're making decisions with like the very distant future in mind, which I love. I really appreciate that part. And I think a lot of board games have this feeling of like, oh, I'm going to make this move not for the far future, but just for a couple of victory points. And then you get stuck in this victory point counting mode, which I don't really like. And then there you make decisions like, oh, I'm going to build up my empire and not give a fuck about victory points for the anywhere near future.
So basically, in order for people who don't play board games, I guess we need to explain that they are split basically into two parts: the board games that you play for points, and other board games. And this is really important split to understand, because when you play video game, usually you have 20 different goals, angles, and stuff like that. In board games, usually you have two: either you play for board games or for winning in some other case. But like, and when you talked about these victory points, this is important to understand that when you play Europa Universalis, the video game, usually you do a world conquer, or either you have your own goals. But when you play board game, you try to maximize points you get most of the times. As you mentioned, Europa Universalis is the game that it's not focused so much on victory points. Am I right?
Exactly. And something to understand about why there are victory points in board games, it's because it allows the game to end sooner. Because unlike a video game, you stop halfway through and you press save and then you leave and you come back. But with a board game, you can't do that. So it needs victory points so that you actually kind of play until halfway through a regular video game, and then you stop there and then you say, okay, who's winning here? So that you can stop and back up and go home, and you don't have to keep playing until you find out who's the absolute winner.
Yeah, but again, this is, I would say, like 60-70% of games. And there are other games, and I want to mention one of them, maybe later if we finish this one. But when it comes to playing for points, it's kind of like you said, that you've never have enough moves, because you need to optimize your moves to the point that you can maximize your score, not the other way around. You are not. It's interesting. If you're not playing with board game, it's really hard to explain what's the difference. But again, you are usually, when you play board games, you are lacking moves. You are at this point of thinking that, okay, I cannot do everything. I need to do some of it in order for me to win this game.
It's like, it's all turn based. Obviously, there's very few, if any, real time board games. So it relates a lot to turn based strategy video games. And yeah, you count moves, and usually in the first half of the game you build up, and then the second half of the game there's a moment where you switch over to, you don't build up anymore, but you count victory points.
And it's also important to say that, except for like the two goals that the video board games are split into, so victory points and the rest, there's also another split, and it's called competitiveness. So either board games are done in the way that players are affecting each other directly, so you can attack the player, you can destroy their base or something, and there are board games, and this is again the huge part of them, that you are playing side by side. You are competing, but you are not directly affecting the other player. So, for example, Eclipse, we mentioned, is the game that you can directly destroy the base of the enemy player, and I've done it. My friends done it to me.
But you don't have to. You can also kind of do your own thing and not look at the other player.
Yes, but you see, like the Twilight Imperium on the scale is on the other side. Yeah. If you attack the other player, it costs you so much of victory points and stuff like that, that it's not efficient in terms of min-maxing point value you get from your move.
I think one of the games that is the most in that direction is something like Terraforming Mars. Have you played that?
Yeah, I've played the board version of it. It's one of the best games, but again, it's really heavy on victory points counting and playing yourself.
Yeah, so there's very few ways to impact other players. There's some, but very few. So you're kind of playing your own game, single player, but together with friends. And I think it's kind of fun because you don't hurt each other so much. I think a lot of board games can feel unfun because you're basically screwing each other over, and you have you have video games and you're screwing someone over that's like halfway across the world on the internet, a stranger you've never met, and you're like, you're okay with destroying this person, like, okay, whatever. But then, or it's an AI or whatever. But if it's someone right across the table and it's your friend and you're kind of crushing them, it can create some unpleasant tension. Of course, there's a way to deal with that, but with something like Terraforming Mars, you really have to go out of your way to screw someone over. You can count a little bit. Oh, I'm going to do that before them, and then I'm going to be advantageous because of that. But still, and it's one of the few strategy games where you're not also just building armies and attacking people, but it's more about building an economical empire, which I think is a really fun component.
To be honest, this is really interesting take on this genre because you are they made the strategy game out of the economical background. This is really interesting concept. I don't want to dive into the subject, but this is considered one of the best games there is, and this is for the reason. I want to talk also about one other game, and it's called Dune Imperium. Have you played this game?
I played the other Dune, which I also love playing.
Which one?
The Dune, it's a really old game actually, and it captures,
Ah,
yeah, it captures
I
the
know.
spirit of Dune very, very well.
This is the one that's I guess this is based on Twilight Imperium. This really really old one.
No, there's a Twilight Imperium spin-off that is based off
Yeah.
of Dune, not the other way around.
You see, so
Yeah,
this is also the board game where there are spin-offs
yeah,
and copycats. So I'm talking about the board game that's again a strategy game, but you play mostly with your cards. So this is called deck builder for those who are not playing video games. This is type of game that you build your deck and you each time your deck ends, you shuffle it. So basically your hand is bigger and you have more options. And this is one of the few games that I would say it's not that you are playing for victory points, but it's more focus on the race. Because when it comes to victory points, you either finish at some point, as we said, and we count the points and who has the most wins, or the board games work in this way, some of them, that you have like, if you pass the threshold of 10 victory points, you win. And this changes completely the perspective of a player because you are no longer thinking about, okay, I finish in this time of the play, to the mindset that I need to be the first one to finish it. It even pushes you more to maximize your gain each round you take. And this is one of the best games too. And it's the video game version of it is also for me one of the best translation there is. Like it's extremely fun. And it is even on iOS, on Android, so you can play it on the go. And it's fun there too. I really advise you guys to try it.
yeah. I guess a lot of board games have massively influenced video games in general. I would say something like Deck Builder exists because
Yeah.
of board games, and I can think of quite a few games that have those mechanics. I mean, just something like Balatro or Hearthstone kind of pretends to be a bit of a tabletop game in the first place, and have these deck building mechanics in them.
I realized it like some time ago. Translates the board game into video game. Often it occurs that the gameplay becomes really, really short. So, for example, when you play
Yeah.
Magic the Gathering or cards, or I don't know, even some Carcassonne is also a really popular game, and stuff like that. And when you play board game, it takes you like an hour, 2 hours to finish. But when the computer takes care of all the, setup, counting rules and stuff like that, this game becomes really fast. So that's why I think the Hearthstone was such a big hit.
But you know why that is? It's because of the social element. When you're in person and you're playing a board game, what do? You sit there and you chat, you have fun, you socialize, you go back and forth, you talk about what's happening on the board, you talk about what you did last week over the weekend. You go get a drink, you socialize. That's a huge part of the tabletop. And then when you play that same game online, the only thing that happens is you look at the actual game elements and there's zero socializing that's happening. That's the big difference.
Yeah, so you started this episode with talking about also tabletop simulator. So I guess
Mhm.
this is the connection of these two words because tabletop simulator. Yeah, maybe explain this because I'm not the expert on the topic.
So with Tabletop Simulator, it has like a very huge library of all sorts of board games, and yeah, you play the board game digitally as if you had a board game, and the computer simulates what is happening. Like I played, what's it called, Terra Mystica, where you move your guys around, and it will calculate. Oh, you moved your guy there, so that means that this is happening, and then it makes all the little coin payments. You get everything done for you, and yeah, you click around and you play and you move stuff, and the computer does it for you. I would say it's really fun if you don't have in-person friends, or you have someone that lives very far away, or friends from another country that you want to play a board game with together. Very good with that. Or you're a group of friends that want to play something, but you're all living in different countries or different cities. Very fun. I think I would almost always prefer to play in person. If I had the option, I think I always would.
I would totally agree with you. There's also this niche of board games that you can use your tablet in order to speed them up because they have so many rules. But again, playing in person is usually better. But back to the tabletop, you see, you talked about this social part. So when it comes to tabletop, this is more on the side of the simulation of playing video board game, not video game based on board game. And
Yeah,
the difference that the simulation is such a deep one that the physics is
yeah,
fully implemented.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you can, for example, if you're pissed off, you can even flip the table and you can basically destroy everything, or you can take a tablet and open some stupid meme and show it to people around on this tablet. They can, like, if you have VR helmet, you can grab the tablet because that's what we did with my friends and look at this thing. So this is much fun.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not convenient because it's not a video game, pure video game. So the UI is not, gameish, and it's not like real life experience. So in order, for example, to take a coin and put it on a, I don't know, on a pile, you need to basically grab it with a mouse, move it over the pile, and hopefully they will manage to put the coin on the top of the pile. It won't follow. Or you can either grab the coin and throw it at your opponents or something like that. Like this is the, you see, this is the different take on the video game when it comes to board games. It tries to simulate the social
Yeah,
aspect of it,
yeah.
not so much as the gameplay. Of course, there's thousands of games on the platform. You can play basically every game there is, but I tried it, and unfortunately, I would rather go grab fizzy drink with my friends and play it in real life.
Something to note though is that I am a very extroverted person, so maybe that biases me into preferring an in person. I can imagine someone having a different preference based off of that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm extrovert too. I don't know who is introvert on the podcast. Probably Al. But yeah, but when it comes to board games, it's the social aspect is plays really huge part, and maybe that's why there's thousands of board games, but there's only a plenty of them has the video game version, because it really needs to have a deep gameplay for it. And usually, even if the board game is bad and you have good friends, it's still fun, you know?
Another video game that's been translated into a board game, I don't know if you played this one, Civilization.
Yeah. Yeah, I played all three version of it.
I thought it was also pretty good at encompassing the original idea behind the video game and putting it into the board game. I did feel like, because it has to be short enough, it didn't feel as satisfying. Like the video game you play for so long and you have your civilization that builds up over time so much. And then the board game has to shorten that so much that it feels a bit too short, even though you can't make it longer because then it would be too long for a board game, obviously.
So you see, which version have you played? Do you remember? What was the name?
I didn't know there were multiple versions.
There's so out of my head I can go through Civilization Through the Ages. This is the one without the map, so you played like pure economic stuff and technology. There is Civilization New Dawn, which mimics the Civilization 5 in terms of look.
Probably.
And there is also Clash of Cultures, which is Clash of Cultures civilization game, which is not civilization game per se, but it's considered the best civilization game.
Oh, maybe it's that one. It's where you have to make a pyramid of technologies.
So you played Through the Ages.
Okay.
Usually, what board games does when they are video games does when they translate into board game, the authors of these games try to take the one, and for them the most iconic part, and make the board game out of it. And that's why Europa Universalis is such a long game, I presume, because they try to make everything. And in Civilization you played, they focused on the technology, as far as I remember, and culture and this type of like development.
So it's called Sid Meier's Civilization, the board game from 2010, from Fantasy Flight Games, which was yeah, it captured the idea of civilization exactly. That's what it did, but then shortened it a lot. Then again, kind of ruins it at the same time, because part of the whole civilization game is that you're bringing your civilization over such a long period of time, and you see so all these transformations that it's going through because of the different ages.
Yeah, so basically you brought up a fourth version of Civilization
Yeah,
board game.
yeah.
This is the one this is the one I haven't played.
Okay. Well, so together we played all four.
Yeah, we played all four. I get it, and this is this letdown when you try to mimic the video game mechanics.
Yeah.
So you try to squeeze as much into the game, and either you have a Twilight Imperium type of experience, or you have some lackluster stuff that's kind of like you feel you're missing something. That's why, guys, if you play, in my opinion, I haven't played the one Tim played, but in my opinion, Clash of Cultures is really good. It grasps this concept that you are developing over the map. You are developing technologies. Like this is, it's not called Civilization per se. It has subtitle. For example, in Polish, it has subtitled Civilization game basically, and it's considered one of the best. And I highly advise you to play it.
The other game that I mentioned, Dune, that is not the Dune that you mentioned, but it's simply called Dune. And it's actually an old game. I think it's from the 80s or something like that. And I have to say, most board games that are older are not that good. Because just like we mentioned with video games, it just sometimes takes a lot of iterations to develop game mechanics that are more mature. But this is one of those exceptions. There's a newer version, of course, that is a little bit better than the older versions. But this game, it brings in the idea of Dune so well. If you like the Dune universe, like the betrayal, the alliances that shift, the uncertainty of who has the upper hand, the scheming, it does such a good job of that. And what I love about this, and I think this is a huge lesson for video games as well, is that the asymmetry is on a whole new level.
Mhm.
Whole new level. Did
Mhm.
you play this game?
No, I've heard about it, but I haven't played it.
So
But yeah, this is also considered a classic.
yeah, so you have 5 factions. There's expansions for more, but originally just 5 factions, and it plays very well with 5 players. One person, for example, if you're buying troops, you want to put troops on a planet. For every troop that you buy, you pay, and you paid that money to one of the other players
Oh,
because
oh.
that's the player in charge of troops and troop transports. If you want to buy this other thing, you pay to this other player, and you create this whole dynamic where there's this huge asymmetry where every move that you do can strengthen one or weaken the other player. And I think that's so genius. I absolutely love
Yeah,
that part, and that makes you every decision that you make becomes very strategic in that kind of sense. And there's this huge balance of powers. There's 5 players, so it's like a very delicate balance. It feels a bit like the great powers in Europe that are trying to make sure that no one is getting ahead, because that's exactly the kind of game that you're playing, and exactly the kind of mindset that Dune has in general. Like none of the houses are trying to all of the houses are trying to make sure that none other house is getting too far ahead. And that's how you play here as well, is you're trying to make sure that you're winning and then none of the other houses are too far ahead.
the board game world also changes. And what you mentioned is the old way design that you allowed people the game not to be fully balanced. You allowed people to compete, and this is the thing that I'm missing from today's board games, because usually they're making a game in such a way you can play it yourself and you are not messing with other people gameplay, because as you said, there are friends. You can make your
Usually.
girlfriend leave you. Yeah, basically, I was on the verge of splitting up with my girlfriend while playing video game, because like we had some struggles in there. And, but again, I totally get it, and I wish I had played this game. This is also considered a classic, and like a StarCraft you
Yeah, yeah,
mentioned.
yeah.
This is really
But
a
it
good
is
game.
tough. It is tough because you betray each other and you hurt each other, and it's also so crazy.
Yeah.
Some really cool aspect. Whenever you fight, you have to put in a general to fight against the enemy. And at the beginning of the game, everyone draws a couple generals from the other armies, and you get to keep one. And there's the Baron Harkonnen. Of course, he gets to keep a couple more, and that means anytime that an opponent sends a commander against you, if it happens to be the one that you drew at the beginning of the game, you can flip it over and his whole army is dead. The whole combat is immediately done. Like
Nice.
no fighting, you just immediately win everything. And so every
I love
combat
it.
there's this huge tension of like you don't know, does he have my general or not, and then that creates so much tension. And then also you can scheme with others and you can backstab people like so badly with this. That yeah, I mean, you have to go in if you're playing with your friends. You have to go in and be like, "Hey guys, this is just a game. Uh, like let's be okay with backstabbing each other." And afterwards, like, okay, it was just a game. Otherwise, you're just gonna hate each other after.
You talked about social part, but also this tension you mentioned is the one thing that's missing from video games, at least for me. Because when you play video games, you play 1 hour, 2 hours, single player, multiplayer, whatever. When you lose, you can always restart. You can be like, okay, this is lost game. You can try different thing and stuff. And when you're playing 4 hour, 5 hour session of a board game, and you are so into it, like four people are competing each other, and you at some point backstab one person, it's a feeling, like this tension about making a single move is so high. It's really hard for a video game to mimic,
Yeah,
for me at least, because like I know people are really like they really are into games in terms of like feeling emotions and stuff, but I'm this type of player that basically I don't care. Like, okay, I lost, whatever, I can start over. Yes, I'm not pissed when something is wrong when I'm playing multiplayer, which happens really rare, to be honest. For example, when I played bar, I was like, okay, I lost, whatever, I don't care about it. And when you're playing a board game, like each move is such important to everything, and it can change everything, that this tension is like palpable, I would say. Even, yes, like you cannot mimic this exact stuff. So I imagine that the game you mentioned, Dune, is basically pure like tension simulator at this point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and everyone is interested in what's happening because this delicate balance of power is like really important, which is also the case in Eclipse. I love in Eclipse when you're playing this game, everyone is like trying to ship design, that they're like trying to, okay, I'm gonna put these missiles and then I'm gonna put this and you have no idea how these ships are gonna do in combat. And then everyone is in the corner building their little ships, and then when a battle happens, everyone brings over the like huge armada, and there's a big fight, and then everyone is like looking at the fight. Shit, how is this gonna go down? Which ship design is gonna beat which ship design? And it gets really interesting, and yeah, there's a lot of emotions attached to it.
Yeah, you see, like this is example of the design that authors of Eclipse tried to take the space combat aspect of 4X, I would say, like
Mhm.
4X and the space combat like part of it, and technology around it, and building ships and stuff like that. And I would say that they really well mimicked the situation of a multiplayer experience. So
Mm.
there are two players that you sit across the table, so you can see everything what they are doing. But in a multiplayer, you cannot. Basically, you discover, you try to see, and in this type of game, that you have so many different
Yeah.
options in Eclipse in order to build your ships. You are not sure, and you cannot be sure what your enemy is doing, and you are not sure if you are doing right. So this whole tension is that, like, in multiplayer, you basically don't know because you cannot see, and here you can see, and it doesn't matter at all. But they what they thought of, and what I feel they did well, is each time you lose, even there are dice rolls, so you can lose not because of your fault,
Oh, yeah,
but
you get something.
you feel it's your fault.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, man, this is my design. I have never like, this was a mistake to put this weapon on this ship. There was a mistake to build this type of ship, not this type of ship. Like, this is the part they did really well, really
Yeah.
well.
Although you do have luck with the dice, which, but yeah, it
Yeah,
would be difficult to do it
yeah.
otherwise.
On the other hand, I like it because, as I mentioned many times on this podcast, during different episodes, I'm not best in multiplayer games, unfortunately. So for me, dice roll is this big, joker type of card, in terms of, like, you never know what will happen, and you need to adjust to the situation. So if someone is better, they still can lose, or they need to think harder because they are not in such a good position.
Yeah, and it creates some uncertainty. So before you go in, you don't know exactly what's going to happen.
Before we end, I also want to mention one genre that's, I would say, one-to-one copied from board games to video games. It's, I would say, I don't know how to call it in one word, but these are the hex-based war games.
You mean like Heroes of Might and Magic? Oh no, no, no. Okay, yeah. I know.
Panzer Corps, for
The
example,
the
series.
World of War, World War games. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. When it comes to war games, there are lots of them. I mean, loads. Like, every fight, even every big battle, every conquer of a country has a board game. There's a war game based on it. And if you are fond of these video games, you can directly transfer to the board games if you have people to play with. But this subgenre of board games is a really huge part of this world. Unfortunately, is a niche. So
Yeah.
there's not a lot of people for example, in my area, and I live in, I would say, medium city. There's not a lot of people playing this type of games.
There's also more war games like Axis and Allies, also a really fun board game.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Hearts of Iron, but a little bit simpler. It's like a simplified Hearts of Iron.
Oh yeah, so it's also worth to mention Risk. Risk is like a really basic
Bad game.
board game. It's a bad game, but it's fun. When you are, drinking a fizzy drinks, you can play it with your friends and not to worry.
You can't convince me to play Risk under no circumstances, I think.
I like it. I also want to mention for all the listeners out there that board games, video games, usually also are published on the phones and tablet
Oh, yeah.
devices. And this is really important because, as I said, when you transfer board game to the video game, it shortens the gameplay. So for me, this is a really good way to have 15-minute break, play one session, and finish it. So if you want to try this, I would highly advise you to try the mobile versions. And usually they are also much cheaper. They're usually like $5 or something like that for a game. So, for example, Dune Imperium has amazing mobile version. You should try it.
And I think something like Terraforming Mars, they have their own made game. So it's not a simulator, it's like a complete video game based off of the board game. That's I think exactly a copy of the board game, but in video game format, but like well done with good UI and all of that. But there again, I'd prefer to play the board game rather than the computer game. But it's a different setting. It's a different thing. And then that leaves me wondering, like, what other video game would I prefer to play in a board game format? But yeah, that's a whole different thing.
Before you told me about Europa Universalis, I would say this one, but you told me it takes whole week to play one session,
It's
so
crazy.
I don't want to anymore. Yeah.
I do have to say that a big part of it making it longer, like we were talking while playing the game, and also another part is that you have to know the exact rules. With a computer game, you press a button and you see what happens, but in a board game, you can't do that. So you have to know the exact rules for every special occasion. And sometimes, oh, does that mean do you round up or do you round down? And then you have to go look in the rules again. And the problem with these huge games that take a whole weekend, you're not going to do that every single weekend. So it takes a while to gather the people to play this together, and then by the time you're playing it again, it's been so long again that you don't fully remember every rule again. So that's the problem with it. I would love to do this like hardcore and like have a week vacation where we go in a cottage with a bunch of friends and we play that. But yeah, that's a dream.
Again, my next tip from me for board games is that usually and in some towns there are some groups online that you can
Oh, yeah.
join into, and they are playing once a week. So that's how I got into board gaming, to be honest. I simply found a group and asked them if I can join, and that's how it started.
And there's often like board game cafes and stuff like that where there's a community
Yes.
forming and events and so on.
Yeah, and this people are usually super open
Yeah.
because when you have board games, eh, most of the times you lack one player, for example, to play in the best version. So they're like, okay, let's come, be a fifth player, and we have the most robust experience. So they explain everything to you for you to start playing as fast as you can. So this is a really good way
Yeah.
into getting this hobby.
Yeah, actually, I think you're right. I think board game nerds are some of the most accepting and inviting people ever. You don't even have to be a nice person. They will still like they'll still invite you and have you join over and play with you. And they're very accepting.
Yes, but they are the biggest tryhards
Yeah.
I've ever met in my entire
Yeah,
life.
for
Like
sure, for
if
sure.
if you for example play the first time and you're better than them, oh my god. I would say they would even stab you while you're being in the toilet. Like they're really fierce when it comes to arguments about the rules and stuff like that. But again, when you are a newbie, they're really helpful. Like they always, I cannot imagine a board game player who won't like explain the rules to you. Like
Yeah.
everyone is more than happy
Yeah.
to explain rules. There are fears when it comes to like real play after a couple of hours when there's like 1 point ahead of you and you try to then there are really fears. But when it comes to explaining rules, they're really helpful. And what's more, there's also I also sometimes do it because there are groups like that in my city that I simply watch people playing, and when they're playing, they explain the rules to you if you ask them, like, okay, guys, what happened, and they will explain, okay, he's moving this, I'm trying to do this, and it's also fun because uh, like board games are this type of games that when you are audience and you have a view on the two sides of the conflict, it's really also fun to like think of what the next move will be.
Yeah, so go out there, play some board games, report back to us, tell us what you thought of playing board games, touching some board game grass.
Tim, I have a last question for you. So what would be your advice for the first board game to play in terms of strategy gaming?
Hmm. Hmm. First board game to play as a strategy game. Okay, something that's quite simple at first, something like Seven Wonders can be a pretty easy game to start with. It's really simple. You all have a bunch of cards. You play cards and you pass your cards. And you do that a whole bunch of times, and then you pass into the next age, and then you do that again, and you do that one more time after that. And that's the game. Very, very simple. And yeah, I mean, fun enough. It's not my favorite board game, but fun enough. Now, if you want something complex and big and so on, there's plenty of other games. But if you want to try something simple at first, that's a good board game to start with, I would say.
Yeah, and I would only add that if you like town builders when it comes to strategy, I would advise, on the other hand, Agricola.
Oh, yeah.
This is like
If you enjoy pain.
not sim pain. Why
Yeah,
pain?
but I mean, in Agricola, you're always like, all bad stuff are happening and you're struggling all the time. And
On the one side, but on the other hand, this is a pretty simple game when it comes to rules, and it has good graphic. Yeah, this is the thing I would start with. You should play, guys. You should play Small World. It also has a
oh, yeah.
video game version, and it's quite maybe not robust. It has really basic rules, but it can become a real head scratcher if you get really deep into it. So for sure, you should try it.
All right, I have a couple honorable mentions. Brass Birmingham, economic simulator about industrial revolution. Quite complex, but can be fun. War of the Ring. It's a Middle Earth themed board game. Very grand,
That's a game.
very asymmetric.
If you like playing with other people in cooperation, I would advise you to play Eon's End. Really interesting boss battler, deck builder, fun stuff.
All right. Anything else you'd like to add, Adam?
Board games are cool. You should play it, guys.
I'm glad we agreed. All right.
I also should try board games, I believe.
I mean, he needs friends for that, right?
He has us.
That's true. We should do a meetup sometime.
Yeah, meetup, or we can do a live while playing board game.
That would be fire. All right. No, I think we've covered a lot right here. If you have some board games you'd like to recommend or talk to us about it, feel free to come to our Discord, Critical Moves. You find a link to that on the podcast, criticalmoves.com, as well as our forums, all of our episodes. And if you're listening to us on YouTube or something, feel free to leave a comment there, to like, to subscribe, or to tell a friend about the podcast and share a link. Adam, this was a pleasure.
Tim, it was a pleasure for me too, and I hope we can play board games in real life someday.
That would be fun. I think that can be arranged one of these days. I think we can find a way to do that.
Yeah, you should come to Poland back again.
We'll talk about it.
Okay.
Have a lovely day wherever and whenever you are, and see you on the next episode. Cheers.